Welcome to the Money is Emotional podcast with Christine Lucan, the financial dignity coach. In this podcast, we help you recover a positive and peaceful relationship with your personal finances. We do this by bringing together wise money management with emotional intelligence. Join us for this journey where we navigate our relationship with money as Christine Lucan draws from years of experience and guest experts to help you get to the root of your money issues.
Hello, my friend. Welcome to the Money is Emotional podcast. I am your host, Christine Lucan. Today's episode is Family Wealth Transfer. I am honored to welcome my special guest, Paul Deloughery. Paul is a probate and estate planning attorney with over 25 years of experience helping families protect their wealth and create lasting legacies. Inspired by his own family's experiences, Paul understands that estate planning isn't just about legal documents, it's about ensuring your loved ones are supported for generations to come. He believes that proper planning prevents unnecessary conflict, protects assets, and keeps families united. Paul is also the author of Lasting Wealth, a book where he shares his practical strategies for safeguarding financial and family harmony. Known for his approachable style and deep expertise, he helps clients navigate complex legal and emotional matters with clarity and confidence. Welcome, Paul.
Well, good morning, Christine.
So, Paul, you have a very interesting story. 16 years ago, you inherited $14 million. Most people believe that that would be a miraculous, positive, life-changing event. Yet for you, that wasn't quite the case. Please tell us your story.
Sure. Okay, so just briefly, the story is I've been a lawyer since 1998. I got into estate planning and started doing some probate, but mostly planning, helping people plan for passing wealth on to the next generation and so on. And then in 2009, I got a call from my Uncle Dave, who I had never spoken with before, but he said that my dad, quote unquote dad, who I'd also never spoken with before, was ready to meet me. Long story short, I was raised by Henry Deloughery. My last name is Deloughery, and for most of my life, I thought that I was half Irish, half German. It actually turns out I'm apparently mostly German or 100% German, with an Irish last name. So in any event, I scheduled a trip up to the state of Washington to meet my biological father for the first time. Long story about how this.
How old were you?
I was at the time I was 42.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So
that must have been quite the shock.
Yeah, well, and there's a whole big backstory here, but the highlight is, so I met him. We started to kind of connect and get to know each other, and then within 6 weeks he was in hospice. I went up again and met with him, and he died within a couple of days. And then I found out, I got into his house because I'm turns out his only child, and found a tax return on his computer from the previous year, from 2000. Oh shoot, what was it? I guess it would have been the 2007 or 2008 tax return that showed a $1.5 million passive income.
Wow.
On the bottom of page 1, and so I figured that he had something, and that's when this whole time emotions were kicking in. And,
I'm sure.
And so for me, and just highlight here, and I can start drilling down because the drilling down part starts getting really fascinating. But for me, it was kind of a sick consolation prize. And kind of the story, my whole life, I've kind of learned this lesson, and this isn't a healthy lesson, or it's maybe, not what I should have learned, but what I learned is, for something good to happen, something bad has to happen. And that's just been kind of over and over. And let's see, Tony Robbins talks about how, we can choose what we focus on, and then we can choose the meaning, and then we can choose our action. Well, what I was observing was this pattern in my life that, something good happens, and obviously something equally or even worse, bad has to happen. And that's just the way things are. And therefore life is meaningless. And so who cares? Was kind of, honestly, like that was just, I think maybe it was a coping mechanism. But so a listener might wonder, how in the world could someone inherit a bunch of money and then just be stupid with it? And it's more complicated than that.
It always is.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. But anyway, so that's briefly my story.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious, what are some of the mistakes that you made with that money? Did you buy a big mansion? What did you do with that? I know you have you didn't waste all of it, but you did foolishly invest and spend a nice chunk of that.
Yeah, I was buying houses for my girlfriend's daughters. The vast majority of it was along the line of, I thought I was investing it, but I was investing in, kind of haphazard investment, private equity kind of deals, like
high risk stuff.
Drilling for oil back in 2010 when oil prices, when they were discovering oil reserves in North Dakota, and the prices of everything was coming down. Not a great idea. And then investing in honestly a con artist up in the Portland, Oregon area, where I literally found out, and he never admitted this, but around the time that I invested in his company, he bought a house, a new house, complete with a helicopter pad and a new helicopter. Yeah. So
some of that might have been yours.
That could have easily been mine. Yeah. Anyway, so things along that line. Yeah. So there you go.
But you did have a turning point, and in fact, I found this to be very ironic that your rock bottom moment actually involved a rock.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, that's interesting. So it was around 2018 that life just wasn't working. It just, I just was treading, just working, not getting ahead, having the wrong people in the law firm. My marriage was not good, and I got drunk, and rather than calling a cab or something, I thought I would save money and drive on a highway an hour away to get to a hotel. I thought that was a great idea. And I ran into a boulder in a roundabout somewhere up near the Grand Canyon. And thank goodness for modern medicine, I'm still alive, and I have rods in my spine and everything. But yeah, that was definitely a wake up call.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the two big things that make for a successful family wealth transfer. And those were things that you didn't get the benefit of. And that's communication and preparedness. Why are these things so important?
Well, communication is important because it helps the inheritor get a context and meaning for the inheritance,
Right.
so that so it's not just a random transfer. If it's a random transfer, like winning the lottery, that just statistically it's doomed to fail. But if
Right.
it's something meaningful where the person understands what it means, and there's an agreement, there's conversation with the parent, then there's a much higher likelihood that it's going to stick and actually do some good, and that's
Right.
been studied. There's research about that.
Yeah.
And then and that I guess goes hand in hand with the preparedness part.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think, you didn't really know anything about investing, right? I mean, your dad, I read your book, The Lasting Wealth, a revolutionary method for family wealth transfer. And in it, your dad made his money in the stock market, but he didn't teach you what he did, right? He didn't, he left you this inheritance of money, but he didn't leave you the inheritance of knowledge. And whether or not you actually wanted to do the level of investing that he was doing, you may not have, but at least you would have been prepared to have discussions with people like financial planners and CPAs and have that base of knowledge about investing and how this stuff works.
well, right. And let me put this very basically. So, as in anything in life, you're going to be more successful if you're fully functional. You're going to be more
Yes.
successful in a marriage if you're healed of past trauma and you don't have triggers. And you're going to be more successful in your career and inheriting money, or if you're the parent, communicating with your children, or if you're the child, receiving that and being responsible, if you're fully functional, and so on. And there's just a lot that goes to that. With my father, yes, he was a good investor, but he was also fearful of.
Right.
I mean, he had a $28 million net worth, and he was obviously scared of money, because he lived like a pauper. I mean, he had a house that was paid for, but he bought everything on a discount. He only bought food at a discount. He was making his own tofu. He made his own, like, got denture kits so he could make his own dentures.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh.
he he only bought things at Goodwill, on the half price sales. Like, and so you might think, oh well, he's just eccentric or something like that. But that's a sign of fear. And
Absolutely.
yeah, for sure. And so there's something. So there's layers to this, and here's partly what I've been able to piece together. So there's been research on rats, and if you teach a rat that you go in this one cage and there's food, it'll go in the cage and get the food. But then if you shock it after that, like the rat will then learn this anxiety, and anxiety is basically fear and excitement. So
Yeah.
the rat's excited about the food but scared about getting shocked, and so the rat just kind of freezes. And I think for for my father, I think he was frozen in anxiety over
Yeah.
money, even though he had a $28 million net worth. And I'm not sure all the past that was there, but I know he was excited about the money, but he was also scared about it. So
Yeah.
he became an alcoholic. He actually, like,
Mm.
part of my inheritance was, oh my gosh, I want to say like 50 cases of wine.
Oh my.
So yeah, I
I
think
hope
he
it
just,
was good wine, not cheap wine.
no, it was the cheap wine. It was the cheap wine. Of course, everything he bought
Oh
was cheap.
no.
But then for me, when I
Uh,
inherited, like, I have learned, and I can go through all kinds of stories about this. But even like when I was 16, okay, so I had my 16th birthday. It was wonderful. I just got um, uh, chosen to represent Minnesota as one of two high school musicians in the McDonald's All-American Marching Band, and my stepdad died. And so
mm,
that was like, that was kind of my thing, like,
mm,
so fear and excitement. So I've kind of had this anxiety thing my whole life. And then I get money, and like, money linked to a death. Uh
right.
and like honestly, the skill set of, I don't know, talking to the right people or something. Like I was just not in a good frame of mind to be able to think clearly. I just
Yeah.
wasn't.
Yeah.
And there are con artists that prey on people like that. So
Yes.
that's what I ran into.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and this is a perfect segue into my next question. Ultra wealthy families have a resource called the family office. What is a family office and what function does it provide for families?
Dare to enter the Wealthy Woman Book Club, where answers exist to forbidden questions, where women of all ages and income secretly gather, where knowledge is shared, where possibilities are explored, where women claim their power. Dare to stay a spell in the Wealthy Woman Book Club. In this place, we lift each other up. In this place, we start dreaming again. In this place, we see financial miracles. In this place, we grow through the glory and the failure. In this place, we step into a new identity. Dare to champion the Wealthy Woman Book Club. We're creating a future where women are financially empowered across the globe. We're creating a future where our daughters stand on equal financial footing with our sons. We're creating a future where we purchase with our principles rather than price tags. We're creating a future where we use the power of money for the benefit of people and the planet. Welcome to the Wealthy Woman Book Club. Dare to come in, woman. Come in. Join us at wealthywomanbookclub.com.
Yeah. So, well, if you get super wealthy, like having hundreds of millions of dollars, then
Yeah.
basically it just happens naturally. And, the families may not call it their family office, but basically, like, things just get complicated enough where you start hiring people to manage things, and that's,
Hmm.
and for someone with less, but maybe a whole bunch of rental properties or something, you might actually have an office where you have some property managers there who are dealing with the tenants and that kind of thing. And then, by the way, they kind of help out with different other things. And that kind well if it's done well, there's something called a multifamily office um, where they don't just manage assets, but part of it is, I mean, hopefully, if it's done well, the people also know a little bit about psychology and how to, like, help with communication, and maybe help with programs and dealing with the one child that is irresponsible with money, and what do we do with that person, and trying to just set things up. So it's just kind of a natural thing that happens. And so unfortunately for most people, we just don't have that. Because my father at 28 million was not wealthy enough to be able to even qualify for this kind of a service, which just seems sad. But even more sad, I guess, is that 99% of people don't qualify, and so trying to find that is hard. But for example, listening to your podcast, or there's a lot of information that people can get if they if they just have to, if they're willing to search for it.
Well, and I think if people want to be intentional, they can create their own family office. So I feel like that's essentially what my dad has done for our family. And we are by no means ultra wealthy. However, my dad and my brother and I, along with several other owners, own a manufacturing business that's doing really well. But we have people in our, that we have relationships with as a family. We have an attorney, we have a CPA, we have a financial planner. So we have these people who intimately know our family situation and our financial details. And we can bring these people together to discuss things. Like, estate planning considerations, tax considerations, etc. So I think if someone wants to be intentional about that, they can assemble their own family office. But what I find interesting is there's so many people out there who say, like, I want to be the first generation that accumulates the wealth, right? And there's this it's almost like this status to aspire to, like, I'm going to be the one that kicks off this wealth thing in my family. Like, I'm changing the family tree. But you state a statistic in the book that says most of the time, by the time the wealth hits the third generation, it's gone, because the first generation is the accumulators, right? They're the ones that worked hard and accumulated the money, and maybe were afraid to spend it, like your dad, right? And then you have the second generation, and if you've taught them well, like my dad has taught my brother and I, we are like the preservationists or the conservationists, right? So when my dad passes, like, our job is conserving and growing that wealth, because we remember my dad starting his business from the spare bedroom of our house. Like, we remember when he built the building, right? And got this big, huge loan to get this building. And now it's been 36 years since the company has been founded. The grandkids didn't see that struggle. And so you say a lot of times the third generation, right? You've got the accumulators, you've got the preservationists, and then the third generation can frequently become the spenders.
Yeah, well, and it's even a little bit worse than that. So as a probate attorney, what I see sometimes is the struggles that the third generation goes through, because so the third generation then grows up with, having nice things and going on vacations and everything, and seeing their parents not have to work as hard, and so they grow up with less of a work ethic, and then the money runs out, and that's just a really sad dynamic or situation to put people in, where they don't have even just the average work ethic. They have a below average work ethic and no money. Like, that's
Yeah.
really not what the grandparents wanted.
Right. Yeah. Well, and sometimes just handing people money can create that situation, right?
For sure. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So what advice do you give to parents and grandparents when it comes to things like that?
Oh.
Or do you not meddle? You're like, hey, I'm just here. I know you do more than just the legal documents. You do you get into that family psychology with people.
You're saying like what advice I give to them, like just part of it, I guess, is having them help out around the house. Like it's so easy when you have money. It's so easy to just have everything done for your kids. But if they can learn to do their own clothes and put their dishes away after dinner, and like once a week help make the food, like doing some responsible things like that, I think is just good. So I was
So some
married
self-sufficiency.
Yes,
Yeah.
actually, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah, because, and that doesn't mean you don't do nice things for your kids,
No.
and that, you're mean to them and make them your personal slave. However, I think there's definitely a benefit for teaching that link between self-responsibility and money, and having some work and effort for the money versus
absolutely.
just
And I know
this goes
against some, probably the mainstream make money coaches out there, where money's supposed to be easy and you shouldn't have to work for it and all this kind of stuff. But it's okay to have a work ethic. It is okay.
Yeah.
And if you learn how to do it simply, awesome. But
Right.
at least as a foundation, have a work ethic.
Absolutely. Well, in your book, Lasting Wealth, you say that the real secret to generational wealth preservation is creating a culture that sees the family as a championship team with the goals of sticking together and being good stewards of the family fortune. Why is
Right.
this so important?
Oh, because as a society, we're in a very anti-family society right now.
Yeah.
We can go out down a number of rabbit holes about why that is and implications and everything, but it just, I think we can all agree it's not the same as the 1950s or pretty much any time before, any other time in human history.
Yeah.
We haven't had such a anti-family environment right now. And so to intentionally create that, I think is just really important. So today is March 18th. Yesterday I sent out a email newsletter to my following, and I was trying to think before I did it. I was thinking, oh my gosh, I want to send like the 5 things that I learned, from my stepdad, from my Irish stepdad.
Yeah.
And I mean, unfortunately, a lot of them just kind of weren't good. There were some good things, but one thing that my kids remember is this idea that the family sticks together. And,
Yeah.
we can all we have disagreements. My son and daughter have completely different personalities and everything. But the one thing that we all agree on is, at the end of the day, we can always count on each other. And that is just, like I have instilled that, at least. And I think that's just so,
I love that.
yeah, it's really good. And it helps us plan. It helps us, create common values. And so we actually, we literally do planning. Like, it's not just me planning for my retirement. Like, my kids and I literally plan for the family. And it's just, I
That's
don't know.
awesome.
Somehow it just kind of naturally comes. So
Yeah. 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 I think that's kind of naturally happened in my family with my dad, and that's because he is someone with very strong moral principles and a vision for the future. So one
mhm,
of his things that he always told us when he started his company is, my goal is to build a company that lasts at least 100 years. So when we are making decisions about the family business, that's one of the things that we always go back to, right? When we're like, we're never going to sacrifice short-term gains at the expense of the long-term prosperity and longevity of
sure.
this company,
Yeah.
right? And, it doesn't just employ family members now. There's 100 families all over the country,
Yeah.
and growing. So, I think I was very fortunate that my dad is that kind of a person.
Mm,
And, as he grew his wealth, he was intentional about teaching my brother and I about it, and, starting to give us more financial responsibility, which I think is a good thing as well. I see a lot of parents who, it's like they accumulate all this wealth and then they wait until they die to give it to their kids. And they don't spend that on the family to enjoy together, or to, gift to their children while they're still alive, to see their kids enjoy it. So, I think that is also something to think about. This family wealth transfer doesn't necessarily just happen the day after somebody passes away,
right. Oh
right? You're
yeah.
passing
Absolutely.
on that, not just the material, but you're passing on that rich history of the family
Yeah.
and those family values.
Right. Yeah. So the idea of what I call family wealth transfer is to come up with ways of bridging the gap, and that can be. I mean, the one thing I talk about in the book is the family code of honor. It can also be just telling stories about grandpa, grandpa, and how they made money, but just not just the simple thing of, oh, he worked really hard and made a bunch of money. Like, also maybe the stupid mistakes, but how he learned from it and recovered, and this happened, and where it's more complicated than just a hero story of grandpa worked hard and made a bunch of money. So because
Right.
it's the complexity that actually really helps, I think, tie the generations together. The complexity of the story and the realism of it.
Yeah.
So,
So, Paul, you now
yeah.
run a family wealth advisory service. So, please tell us what the difference is between a financial advisor and a family wealth advisor.
Well, so here, let me be completely honest. So basically, I'm still an attorney. I do estate planning and probate. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, I've taken some training in this area, in the family wealth advisor area, and that helps me. But still,
But you're not necessarily managing the money.
I'm not managing the money. No.
Yeah.
I do look at planning and, well, from the probate side, like helping fix things after the fact, and I try to look at it more holistically, I guess, and more in terms of uh, trying to be a problem solver for the family.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. I love that. Well, do you have any parting words for people who are leaving an inheritance or are maybe anticipating an inheritance?
Okay, for someone anticipating an inheritance, um, uh, stay in touch with your parents. Well, and honestly, from both angles, if it's the parents or if you're the kids, don't make assumptions. So many people make silly mistakes, and it's because this area is so complex. You have wills, and you have trusts, and you have pay on death beneficiaries, or accounts that can have beneficiary designations, and people can just go all over the place. And that's frankly a lot of my calls with clients has to do with like really getting clear on what happens. And let me tell you, if I can just take a minute just to kind of explain for people what I mean, and then I'll
we love stories. Tell us a story.
Okay. But here's my example. You're at an intersection, and one road is called Probate Road, and you only go down that road if your loved one has assets in their name alone. Like they bought a house, there's no beneficiary designation, it's not in joint tenancy, it's just a house in your deceased parent's name. That then goes in the probate aisle, okay, or the probate road. Now there could also be a trust, and the trust could say that everything goes, to the 3 kids equally. Okay, so that's fine. Now, if let's say that the house is in the trust, okay, that goes to, we'll do that. Okay, that then goes, in equally according to what the trust says. But let's say you have $1 million in an IRA, and the IRA beneficiary is the oldest child. Okay, now you have a will that says everything goes to the trust. You have a trust that says it goes to the 3 kids equally, but the IRA designation says it all goes to the oldest child. What controls? The IRA, the beneficiary designation. Okay, it doesn't matter what the will says, doesn't matter what the trust says, and people get confused about this all the time, and it even gets more confusing because I've seen wills that say this house goes to this person, and this life insurance goes to this person, and this account goes to this person. But if the house is in joint tenancy and the account has a pay on death beneficiary, we don't care what the will says. Yeah. So, and people get so
upset.
Upset later, but
yes,
but it's like there's this false confidence I think people have that the will says I get this account, and then they think, well, that's great, but if the account has a pay on death beneficiary, they're not getting that account.
Yeah. And I tell people all the time, the beneficiary trumps everything else. Now, if your trust is the beneficiary, then it's going to happen as you want it to happen, right? So
it should, yeah. But yes.
That's why we need smart attorneys like you to make sure that those things are happening.
Yes, you need to look at the details, and yes, exactly. And please just get an attorney to help you through the process and make sure that what you think is going to happen is actually going to happen, because otherwise the family can easily spend tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands I've seen fighting over things if it's done wrong.
Yeah. And we don't want that.
We don't want that. Right. That bad.
Yes.
That bad
and Paul, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast and sharing your wisdom. Where is the best place for people to connect with you?
Yeah. Thanks for asking. Just go to the main website. It's suddenwealthprotectionlaw.com, and you can put a link in there. But yeah, the main website.
We will definitely do that. And you have a super fun quiz on your website called "Will Your Heirs Blow Their Inheritance?" So, parents, I highly recommend that you go and check out that quiz, and then maybe you need to get in touch with Paul after that. Well, my friend, this is where I leave you for today. If you enjoyed this conversation, please leave us a review. It helps others to find the Money is Emotional podcast. And if you're not a subscriber yet, what are you waiting for? Hit the subscribe button and you'll be notified when a new episode drops. My free financial dignity community is now open. This is the place to be if you want a safe and supportive space to talk about money, emotions, and mindset with others who are on the same journey. See the link in the show notes to join us now. Until next time, this is Christine Luken reminding you that you're good enough, you're smart enough, and gosh darn it, people love you, including me. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to the Money is Emotional podcast. To get in touch, visit our website at www.christineluken.com or drop us a line at hello@christineluken.com. And don't forget to click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Christine Luken. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing or tax advice. Always seek the advice of your advisor, tax professional, or other qualified financial professional with any questions you may have regarding your personal finances.